Silva pati stāstīs, vai tev vajag patulkot?
Nē, nu es varu pateikt, man jau īsi sakāmais.
Hold on just a moment. Klausies, es tagad nevaru runāt, es semināru tulkoju online.
Man jāsaka tagad, ka es būšu tā kā sociālais darbinieks.
Jā, nē, nu tu arī būsi zināmā mērā, bet nu, tu vienkārši esi mūsu 4. komandas biedrs, vienkārši iepazīstina ar sevi.
Silva is the 4th member of the team and she's the social worker.
Yeah, kind of.
Kind of.
Yeah. I work as a foster family. We have 2 teenagers in our family, 13 and 16. Next week will be 17 years old boys. And yeah, I work with the people, help them somehow. And at this moment, I'm trying just how I feel. I work with people and with the animals. I have horses, goats, cats, dog, and I introduce people with the animals and help them to understand more this live nature and themselves as well.
Okay, yeah. So you are already a little bit familiar with this way of working.
Yeah, and I would like to go deeper in that and to learn this in more scientific way, maybe not only with my intuition.
Okay, I understand. Thank you. Thank you. Nice meeting you.
Beidzot arī Laura ir klāt.
Laura.
Vajadzēja būt vispār vēl cilvēkiem, bet labi, varbūt kāds vēl pieslēgsies. Es domāju, ka mēs sāksim. Es redzu 2 cilvēkus, Arnoldu un Beāti, kas arī tā kā ir ieinteresēti tajā visā. Un Silva un Ieva noteikti arī grib dzirdēt no Katrīnas tādu stāstu par to, kas tas viss ir. Vēl vajadzēja būt Līgai no dabas zirgiem, kas bija ļoti ieinteresēta tajā visā, bet vai nu viņa kavējās, vai, nu, cerēsim, varbūt, ka viņa pieslēgsies vēl. Evija, varbūt tu vari...
Man īstenībā ir jautājums par cilvēkiem, kam tiešām vajag tulkojumu.
Man vajag.
No tevi nav jautājumu.
Tu man var tulkot varbūt telefonā. Bet labi, jā, varbūt arī Katrīna, visi saprot angliski, Beātē, Arnolds, protams, ka saprot Beātē, ka ir problēmas vai nav?
Nē, es ļoti labi saprotu angliski.
Labi, tādā Ieva var saprot un visi saprot. Tādā gadījumā es domāju, ka jā, pasaki.
Nav vajadzības man pa vidu tur maisīties.
Jā, Katrīna šobrīd tad droši var stāstīt visiem, jo es izlasīju prezentāciju, es arī vairāk vai mazāk zinu, par ko ir runa. Jā, saka, ka Katrīna var droši.
So, Katrina, since everybody speaks English and understands English, I won't be translating for everybody, just bits and pieces for Selga. So you can just go non-stop.
Okay. And you will let me know if Selga says something I need to know as well.
Oh, yes, of course.
Good. My Latvian is still very bad. Should I start the presentation?
I suppose yes.
Yes. I think you can see it. Yes. So I will just for a short moment talk a little bit about what equine assisted therapy and learning is, and what you can expect of this training we're going to do in Latvia, and a little bit about why equine welfare is such an important component to it. So what is equine assisted therapy or learning? There are, of course, many ways you can describe this, and there are many models out there. What Mimer offers is a very fundamental and basic approach based on science that you can actually use in whatever model you would maybe want to go ahead and use. There are, I don't know if you're familiar with them, but there are like over 80 models now in the world. So equine therapy or learning, and learning here, I don't only mean learning as in school, like teachers, like learning in that kind of sense. Learning is the English term for any kind of coaching or learning, perhaps social skills or anything you can learn with horses. So it means you have horses present, of course, in these interventions. It means that the work is experiential. So it's not inviting a horse into the pasture and bring a client there and stand beside and talk, because then you are not doing equine assisted therapy or learning. So it's not about transferring what you already do and just be outside and have a horse present. It's actually understanding and working with what the horses can contribute with. It's about working relationally, but still without making it about the relationship, and that maybe sounds contradictory. People who often struggle with relationships to themselves and to others, and working with horses is often more easy for them. But it isn't about teaching people having relationships with horses. It isn't a horsemanship course. So if we help people relate to horses, but they still cannot relate to humans, we're actually not doing our work. So the horse is not the goal here. The relationship with the horse is not the goal. It is client-centered, so it's driven by what the client needs. And of course, if you do therapy or even work in schools, there are often some kind of treatment goal or some goal that you want to reach with your client. It is also knowing how to work with horses present. So again, it's not enough that you have a couple of horses in the backside and you bring your people out there and then you do equine therapy, because it doesn't become equine assisted therapy or learning just because you have horses. You also need to know what you're doing. And it's about working in a team with a human professional, which could be a social worker, psychologist, psychotherapist, teacher, coach even sometimes, and an equine professional present. So why add horses to your practice? These are some of the things that I have gathered that I think horses bring instead of doing the same thing, therapy or learning, without horses. So they function as a magnifying glass. It makes processes more visible and transparent for people. And they also enhance these processes. So they go faster and they often turn out to be better. And the horse functions as a point of reference. They are similar enough to humans so we can identify and project onto them, but they're also different enough for us to be more able to see those projections. So they are also this projection screen. And then they are the other that you can practice any kind of social or relationship skills on. And they are supposed to be a bridge, not, as I said before, no point in teaching people be with horses if we can't help them transfer that knowledge out onto humans and the human society. And all of this they contribute with by just being horses, by just being themselves. So they are not trained in any specific way. We don't work mounted. We don't work, that means we don't work with people riding. We don't work with teaching anybody horsemanship skills. People come to learn about themselves, to learn social skills, to learn about emotional regulation, to learn about many different things, but it's actually not about learning about horses. And in this, it's very important that the horse is not a tool. So why do I say that? We have positive equine welfare. And for this to work, the horse needs to have agency. And we need to see it as a sentient being. We need to see him as a subject or an individual and as a fully competent and complete being. And their needs to be met. their biological needs, social, cognitive, and emotional welfare needs. And also they need to have the freedom to exhibit species-specific behaviors, problem solve, be curious, and keep and develop their personality, etc. And why is that so important? Because they are your role model. So it's very hard to teach people coming to you about agency, respect for others, social skills, the value of everybody and how every being, every person matters, if you don't treat your horse or horses in the same way, or any animal that you work with. So you can't model healthy relationships if you are not taking all of this I told about horses, like they are agents and sentient beings and all this. You can't really role model that if you treat your horse as they don't have this, or they don't matter, or they don't deserve to have their needs met, etc. So if you treat the horse as a tool, this is what you're going to teach the people coming to you, that they are also tools and objects. And I don't think that's what we want to send people out with in the world. It also is can be very traumatizing for people with trauma who has already been objectified. So it's very important. And in this way, we see the horse as a truly an equal member of the treatment team. So what will you learn about in these courses? We will come to Latvia now in 2 weeks, or less than 2 weeks, and do the practical parts. Online, you will learn about doing the theory about horses, equine science, about their behaviors, their cognition, their communication, their needs, etc. And also about what they need to have good equine welfare standards. You will learn about the teamwork necessary between the human professional and the equine professional, and you will have at least one horse and one client present in this team as well. We use something we call neutral language, which is about actually removing ourselves as much as possible from the equation, and so we don't focus on ourselves as providers. And as I said, we are not trying to teach people anything about horses, so we don't use horse-specific language either. You will learn about experiential learning and what that is, and it's so much more than just learning by doing. You will learn about the importance of self-awareness for yourself as a provider. And you will learn about being stress and trauma aware and trauma informed and trauma sensitive. And as I said, you do the theory for level 1 and 2 online, and you start as soon as you have decided you want to do this training. Basically, it's really good if you can start immediately. There is a lot of theory to go through, and it makes sense to have looked at that as much as possible before you come, if you come to the practical days now in October for level 1 and 2. And there will also be this workshop in trauma sensitive equine assisted mindfulness this time. In spring, there will be level 0, level 3 and 4. I put 2 here, it's wrong. And the practice days, of course, of level 3 and 4 in Latvia. And then there will be a learning while workshop, which is basically about enhancing your observational skills and practice your self-awareness. And also, I want to mention this because taking a course doesn't turn you into an equine, or it doesn't turn you into a therapist or a social worker. You need to have that from somewhere else. And it doesn't turn you into a super good equine professional either, because we kind of assume that you already are familiar with horses. But still, even after this course, practicing and training and learning about what equine assisted therapy or learning is takes time. Just because you do the theory and the practice now doesn't mean that you actually know how to do it. So you need to practice this over and over. They are practical skills, like you need to practice them. And it's important with supervision, and mentoring is also often helpful. So you can focus on your own place, your own facility, your own resources, and how you can use them in this work. And then, of course, we always support any kind of reading, attending other trainings, meeting people, discussing. It's a huge part of the learning. And then I'm done. Questions? I will stop share so I can see it.
I had a question, and I was thinking about the teamwork, but you will obviously tell that in our when you will be here in Latvia. But yes, I'm thinking about the human professionals place, like in place in all this, and yes, and now in this presentation, I thought about the neutral language you were talking about. Yes,
Yeah.
is it like that we don't ask any questions, or we are just with the client, or yes, something maybe about
You do ask questions. One way this is set up is that you, as a psychologist and psychotherapist, you are teaming up with an equine professional, so you have different roles in the team. So the equine professional ask questions about the horses, what kind of behaviors they see. And you stand back a little bit and you listen to this, like what comes up. You have seen them move around, you have got a lot of information, and then you listen to what comes up when they ask horse questions. So for example, if the equine professional would say, there was a moment in time, there was a black horse moving away, creating big distance from all the other horses. What was that about? And then we leave room for the client to put whatever they want into that. And they might just speak about the horse. They can choose, so there is choice. It's emotionally safe and trauma sensitive. But they might also start talking about themselves. Yeah, I feel like the black horse, and I feel outside of the group, or whatever comes up for them. And you listen, and at some point in time, you start to connect this with what you know from the treatment goes on in the person's life. And you might ask questions, like do this bridging, like, is it something you recognize from school, or so you have different roles. You still do your job, but you just have the support of an equine professional asking questions about what the horses are doing. And then the equine professional, of course, also responsible for the safety of the equine and everybody's like physical safety in the space. And you are responsible for the emotional safety of all humans present. So there is a division, and therefore it's also important that you practice together with somebody you would like to team up with, because obviously you need to build this team, you know, feeling that you trust each other and all this.
Yes, we were trying last weekend. Laura, was it last weekend or the one weekend before? We were trying to do some work together, and to see how the teamwork works and how the horses are responding to it and how the horses are responding to clients. And it was really interesting, yes, to be in that kind of group, and to find your place and to see the other place, our special professional places, and how to take it all together. And yes, that one thing was that the teamwork and being as a team, and talking all through what will we do and making ABCs. It's really important. Yes.
Yes, it is, and it takes time when you start to practice this, and I teach it in a specific way, and I point some things out, like the neutral language, for example, and the self-awareness of everybody involved, that you can put your own stuff behind, and all this. These are fundamental things that however you then develop your work, it's important, I think, and keeps everybody safe again. Did I answer your question a little bit about?
Yes, it's very interesting. Yes, I'm waiting for you in Latvia to see it deeper.
And please dive into the theory, because we go through this also and theory online, so you have more background before you.
We will have some kind of access, or okay, I'll ask afterwards.
Totally. I don't know how we will set that up, but we will work that out, and it's really good if you could access as fast as possible, basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. can I ask, yeah?
Yes.
Do you understand? I understand it's better to work with several horses, not with just one horse, because there can be those relationships between horses that that client can mirror his or her feelings in some sociality.
Yeah. I prefer to work with more than one horse.
Yeah.
And if you have one person, I like to at least have 2 horses present. You can work with one horse, and sometimes it is safer depending on who is coming. This work is done with all kinds of people, also with cognitive disabilities or all kinds of people. And sometimes for safety reasons, you would choose to just have one horse present. But in general, yes, more horses because you get the social dynamic, as you pointed out, between the horses.
And does this approach works only with horses or also with some other animals?
I would say this is very specific to horses. Some of it you can use with whatever animal. And I've been doing this work on a farm before, and we had, sheep popping up in the horse field, or a cat coming by, or the dog. And you work with what shows up. Sometimes the client focuses more on the cat passing by, and you work with that. But there is so many things specific to horses, how they live in a group, for example, that their size is different. We cannot pick them up and move them. So there are specific things about horses that I think make equine assisted work so good, basically.
Yeah. Also, it could be very good to see this in motion, this approach, to see some more visual materials to understand more deeper this approach.
Yeah, I understand. And you will experience it yourself at the practice. So you will practice on each other also. And I think actually experience it in the training to also take the client role is very, very important, because this is powerful work. And if you haven't been in the client position, you don't really know what you do as a provider. So that's important too.
So it means in the beginning we could be clients ourselves, because we also have some traumas and problems.
Yeah, you wouldn't be working with your own traumas in the training. You would give easy things to work with for your colleagues who are practicing on you. So we would ask for everybody to be mindful about what they put into the field. Since you're new at it, it's not really great to start working with somebody with a lot of trauma. If you have the possibility to try out real therapy sessions with equine assisted work, that's great, but that's not included in the training though.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. There will be a lot of practicing on each other.
I had another question about the client's age and about children and adults. We were when we were trying out all this group work together and how would it be these 2 weeks ago. Then we had a discussion and thoughts about the client's ages. Is it appropriate for children or for adults? What is your opinion, and maybe comment on that?
That's totally up to what the kind of clientele the person is. If you're the mental health profession, you work with the clientele you usually work with. So if you're used to working with children, that's fine. But I wouldn't recommend somebody who is not used to it doing it. So it depends on this, the client group you already work with. An equine professional can support a mental health professional working with any kind of clientele that they feel comfortable with. So I have certain groups that I don't work with because I am not skilled enough or I'm not comfortable with doing it. Some people really like working with heavy addictions, for example. That is not my favorite. I don't work with criminals, specifically not sexual offenders, for example. But then again, someone else would be their preferred clientele. So we are different in that way. There is a lot of people working with children in this field. You need to adapt it, of course. And they don't have the same awareness as adults usually. So safety is one thing we will talk about a lot.
Does it work somehow with the alcohol problems or not?
Yeah, you
Not
can.
related?
It depends on your skill set. Like what do you as a human professional work with? What are you used to dealing with? It's the same, but you enhance your work by bringing in horses and an equine professional supporting you. So it's still same. You still the same human professional. I know people working from, I don't know, everything from neurodivergence, autism, to cognitive disabilities, to physical disabilities, to eating disorders, to trauma, severe trauma, veterans, depression, anxiety, schizophrenia. You can work with, but you need the skills. You need to be trained. And we don't provide that. So you come with the human professional come with the skill sets they already have. And then we add the work of working with horses and be supported by an equine professional. Did that answer your question?
And another question I thought when you were talking about what is the how long are the sessions, or how many sessions do they need? Of course, it depends on the situation, on the client's age, on the problem. But I'm not experienced anything from this, and that's why it's interesting for me. Approximately for how long it's like, and yeah.
I would say some talk therapists, they have very short sessions, like 45 minutes or 50 minutes. That's usually a little bit too short because people need to arrive and then you start the process. And so usually they are not at least under 60 minutes. If you have bigger groups, you might work with, because you can work with groups as well as individuals. Depending on group size, I would add time so there is room for everybody. Depending on what they come for, like more easy mental health struggles, maybe they come a couple of times and maybe they have parallel therapy somewhere else. It might be kids, so it's not therapy, maybe it's social work or learning. They're supporting kids with learning disabilities, for example, and you make a program together with the school and they might come 10 times. So it varies a lot. You can have long therapies, you can have years, people coming for years, individual therapy with horses, and some work you can do with the horses and sometime in office.
Okay.
I would say it's very powerful work, so it often speeds up. Like you need shorter amount of sessions than if you would only do traditional work.
Thank you. It was important to understand the length, and yeah.
Yeah, and I understand. If you haven't tried it before, you have a lot of questions, of course. You're curious, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I'm curious how it works with the learning disability, because here in Latvia, it's very, very large problem.
Okay.
It increases even. And how it is in your country? Is it paid from, I don't know, government or whatever, because parents cannot pay this?
No. This is a quite new field. So I would say internationally it has existed. It started in the 60s, 70s, but it was small back then and mostly in the United States. Now it's the last couple of years, it has grown exponentially. Each country has set this up differently. In many countries, there are registers setting up, like you need to be registered somewhere to be able to do this work, because then there is a possibility of having it paid from insurance companies, for example. So each system in each country is different. And I don't know how it is in Latvia, like if you can get therapy from the government or if it's always private or who is paying for it. So in Sweden, there is a mix. There is municipalities offering it. There are schools offering it. There are different kind of even EU projects set up. In Sweden, they are forming an umbrella organization that you can join, and they help with education. So we have now 2 national education set up. It's very, the field is still a little bit the Wild West, which is why there are so many providers of trainings, and research is catching up. Some countries has come much further than others. So in Germany, you can get it sometimes via the state, and sometimes you have insurance companies paying for it. So different from country to country. And I need to learn more about how you do stuff in Latvia, because I have no idea.
I can understand it will be hard work starting from zero.
Yeah.
Because this social things here in Latvia are on very low level if we talk about expenses.
Okay.
For example, now I interviewed people from other countries, from Germany, from UK, how much foster families get for children when they raise those children, and those amount of money is 4 times bigger than we get here. So our government and municipalities, they always say we don't have money for anything, so someone has to make some projects and to get money from somewhere else, but not from municipality and government. It's very, very hard, but there is a field where we can start and work.
Yeah, and I think in the beginning, when I started 10 years ago in Sweden, nobody knew what it was. So I had the, the double work of explaining what it was and teaching people at the same time as I try to market myself and say I provide these kind of services. So it was kind of hard work. I think.
And which country? Yeah, sorry.
Sorry, no, please go on.
Yeah, which country is good example where this system works? Sweden or some other countries?
Norway has come further. Norway is ahead of us, so is UK, and US partly, and Germany. Some other countries are more behind us. It's each and every country makes their own rules about how this is paid and who is paying for it. And what we can do is support research, because when you can show research that this is effective and it's evidence-based, there is usually more willingness to pay for this service. And if you can show that people only need to come 8 times for this, but in a more traditional, they would need to come 15 times, for example, it makes it economically viable to choose this. So it's a parallel work, and there are European networks you can join, so you can learn about how they do things in other countries and get inspired. I will contribute with as much as I know from different countries. I've traveled a lot and trained in several different countries by now, so I've seen a little bit how people solve things depending on resources.
This is a question more about the program, but not for this theme, but maybe I can ask this question. In spring, it will be more nature-assisted therapy as well. It will be
We will do something that we
assisted
call
mindfulness, nature-assisted mindfulness. Yes, it was.
yes, we do the one we call Learning Wild. And we do also in level 3, there is more information about mindfulness. But it's a component already from the beginning that is also nature assisted. So I've been looking in very small research project, we've been looking at the importance of the environment where we do this. So there is nothing saying that you need to do it in nature. Like people do this in riding arenas and round pens and all kinds of places, stables, and I do not, because I think it's easier to maintain equine welfare if we are outside in an environment that is good for horses. I also think that the environment actually plays a role for the people coming. And what we see so far in our little small research project is that that's true. Like the environment actually plays a huge role. It's much easier to ground people, for example, if you're outside and in nature, that is a nice nature. You can use all the grounding skills you usually use with listening to sounds and touch and all of this. You have good questions, all of you.
We will have a lot of questions when we will meet you.
Yes, and that's good. That's really good.
Yeah,
yeah.
In process.
Yeah. Yes, yeah, and we will set up a specific like meetings on Zoom when you started your learning, so I can support you in the best way.
I have a question.
Hmm?
I work more with horses and with teaching horse riding and working with horses. And I was wondering if this program is also applicable to that. And also, are there any specifics for the equine specialist in the, in the therapy sessions? Because I don't have a psychology degree or anything like that.
No, and you don't need to either. What you need to have is knowledge about horses and about handling horses and about understanding horse behavior. But this is also, the training is open for both human professionals and equine professionals because we want people to work in teams. So it's, you don't have to have any psychology studies or something like that.
Yeah, thank you for your answer.
Yeah. Did it help you?
Yes, yeah, because I was starting to wonder if maybe this is for people specifically with already something, with psychology related.
No, because what the equine professional contributes with is knowledge about horses. And we have a lot of information about horses because we think it's, when you work with the component here you work with is that the equine professional is looking at horse behavior for many reasons, to keep everybody safe, but also to ask these neutral questions. And it's actually the horse person who does that before the human professional steps in and help the person to conceptualize.
That's very interesting. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Do we need to learn something to read some materials before we meet you?
Yes, please. It's in the online environment. There is huge amount of, there are videos you can watch. There are required reading, there are suggested reading, there are assignments you can do, all to get to know how this functions and works. So from my perspective, it's good if you have had time to look at it as much as possible before I come, because I have 2 days to help you with the practical aspects. And if I need to start all over and begin with the theory, we will not have enough time. So I will speak with Lauren and Selga, and we will agree on how we give you access to the theory, and we will make it happen as soon as we can.
I will have to write a contract and sign a contract for the Erasmus program.
Yep.
Just for everything to be according to the law. But yeah, after that, after the formalities, then the students are.
So you are working on this kind of contract, Laura?
Yeah, we're trying to wrap our minds around everything here simultaneously, because it's a very short time.
Yes, it
So,
is.
yeah, but
and so I'm aware of that. You will not have the time to go through all the theory before we meet the first time. But if you have at least looked at it a bit and gotten an overview of it and started, that would be really good. And then we have Selga and Laura who actually done the theory already, so you will support.
Hello, I'm Liga. I also have a question. I'm getting at the moment degree or supervisor, and I'm interested, what's your experience with the supervision sessions with horses? And is it suitable for the situations where I'm working with the social workers and trying to solve and when I'm trying to solve their labor relations?
You can totally use that for supervision. And it's because it's for whomever comes, it is doing this, it speeds up processes and makes the processes more easy to see, more transparent. So it's often very effective work. And for people who are used to do some introspective work, you can usually get it going rather fast. For people who are not so used to reflecting and doing introspective work, it takes a little bit of a time to understand how you can use this kind of work. But I do workshops that is over a weekend with people and with many therapists, and they often get the hang of it quite quickly, and then they can use it really good. So it's I know other supervisors who do this work with horses. I do too. I even done it over Zoom, like asked people to have, that has all been one person in supervision, but they have had a camera with them out to the horses, and I've given them some instructions and they have done some things, and I can give feedback over Zoom. So.
Okay, thank you. That sounds very good.
It's very versatile work. And you can start with it on a very basic fundamental level. And once you get into it, and if you're interested, you can deepen this. There's no end to how deep you can go and how much you can use it. This is my passion, so it's like, I find it fantastic work. Any kind of human development, I think this is fantastic.
Mums ar Eviju ir slēgts tas slēptais kanāls, viņa man tulko pa kluso. Bet Līga varbūt jā, un Beāte un Silva, Ieva, jā, mums tātad ir paredzēts, es ceru, ka mēs nākamās nedēļas sākumā par visu vienosimies un atvērsim, tad Katrīna atvērs pieeju materiāliem. Līgai un Beātei tad ir jāizdomā, vai viņas kādā veidā pievienojās. Nu, kā jau es sūtītu, tur ir tie daži varianti. Nu, var sakot, Laura, es, Silva un Ieva esam tie 4, kas mācīsies. Un tie, kas izlems mācīties online, tie varēs nākt pie mums, tā kā Latvijā iziet, nu, varbūt praksi, jo mūs vadīs Katrīna. Un tas noteikti būs vieglāk, kā ja jūs mācītos pilnīgi online un jums būtu jātiek ar to pašiem galā. Tā kā es iesaku izmantot tomēr, jā, interesanti, es skatos, ka tagad cilvēki nāk, vai tiešām laiks kaut kur ir bijis nepareizs norādīt. Ringrida un Agrita, bet mēs jau te pļāpājam un...
Laiks bija pareizi norādīts 19. Es neesmu neko redzējusi citādāk.
Skatāmies, ka pienāk daži cilvēki klāt. Bet, jā, vārdu sakot, domājiet, bet varbūt kā Arnoldam vēl kāds jautājums, zinu, par autismu un...
Hello, Katarina and the whole crew. I'm very excited that you are bringing your work to our country, and I am in charge of a foundation that will be working with autistic youth. And we have the council of our foundation has 3 mothers of autistic young adults, one of whom is a psychology professor. So I will be reporting to them. Another of our council is the headmistress of the school, the boarding school, special needs school in Pelchi. Central Kurzeme, and she has told me that she's very, very interested in the work that you're doing, and she mentioned that her school, for instance, pays for and invites visiting dog therapy experts with their dogs. So this is something I think our foundation will be interested in supporting, and if we can help network amongst the mental health professionals as well as I'm sadly not very familiar with either of these fields, but I will try in my capacities to observe and learn more. I last year moved to a sheep farm and want very much to develop some projects, both for my own residential ambitions and repatriating my family from the United States. They are from Colorado, and I just visited them in August and insisted upon taking them to the Colorado State University Spur facility, which we saw. We were the only people there, so we had very exclusive attention from the people that were inviting us in, and we got to see through a very large glass observation window a horse arena, I guess you'd call it a riding arena, which of course is all indoors and just void of objects except for maybe a few, those plastic things that they put up. And we did see one individual, presumably a young man with some kind of functional difficulties, on a horse in full riding gear, and he had 3 attendants immediately around him by the horse, and one other woman farther away from the horse, I guess a supervisory role. And we also saw some of the facilities that they have set up for equine therapy, which are special pools that they can help their muscles and bones. And it was a very impressive sight. but I can't help but note how very different the environment of downtown Denver, Colorado, and this enormous construction site, and this, you know, glass wall and very artificial environment compared to the places that you are working in, and these wonderful facilities that we have in Latvia and Sweden, and we can still, you know, keep our horses happy in that kind of a setting. But just mentioning the equine center at the CSU Spur is named after Temple Grandin, who, as an autistic young person, actually understood livestock better than humans and made a career out of it, and is now an esteemed professor. And so I just wanted to make these notes. And maybe one question: the horses that you work with, are they also rescued from trauma or have been ridden in the past, or are they specially prepared like therapy dogs or service dogs? That's all I would have to say, and thank you again.
Yeah, thank you. No, we don't train the horse in any specific way, but what you talk about is hippotherapy. When we put people on the back of horses and for helping them with often skeletal or musculoskeletal or nervous system problems. And that is a parallel work to this and can be very beautiful. Sometimes it's very hard for the horses though, because they don't get much options or choices in this work. So I don't work with hippotherapy at all. And some of the people in Sweden who did work with hippotherapy kind of figured out that the people on the back of the horses also benefited mentally from this, not only physically. And some of them have joined this field from that direction. I come from the more of the learning and psychotherapy. So we do some kind of mounted work sometimes because the rhythm of the horse and the closeness of sitting on a horse can help people in trauma work. But you need to be, that's like on an advanced level from my perspective. So I do not engage in hippotherapy at all. We do this kind of work on the ground. And I wouldn't say that necessarily putting people on the horses is more effectual than actually working on the ground. So there are different schools around this. I have never been to this center you talk about. I'm familiar with Colorado and the university there. There is actually a Finnish Swedish speaking person that I have met a couple of times who works with some of the research over there. I'm also familiar with Temple Grandin and her work, and she's done fantastic work. I would be a little bit provocative and say I don't agree with everything she does. So I'm quite familiar with the autism world as well. So yeah, there are different schools in this field, of course, as in every other field. I'm happy to hear that you're looking at setting up a facility and working with something like this, maybe in Latvia.
Well, one of our possible directions, because we, as Silva mentioned, in our country we have such a lack of social services and money, budget money for them. So NGOs need to come up with new ideas and try to start things. So young autistic adults need group homes and adaptive living arrangements, if not group homes, if they still can live by themselves, but they also need employment arrangements. And parallel to that, there is a terrible crisis in animal shelters. We just have too many cats and dogs, feral and stray and abandoned. And it occurred to me that there could perhaps be a
kind of win-win
combining Yeah, a win-win between an animal shelter and an autism young adult activity center or something like that. So it's something that I need to, in a long term, explore this hunch, and your work is absolutely part of is my big discovery this week.
Okay.
So.
Yeah. Now, are you going to join us in some way in the training in Latvia?
Well, I actually have relatively little else to do. So unless I have some conflict in my other dealings, I will stay in touch and would like to observe and maybe perhaps invite someone else if you're missing people and need to recruit. But otherwise, I'm an observer who would love to support your work further once I learn more about it and how that could be done.
I don't know if you're Laura. Can you help me out here? If there is a shared awareness of the Nord Plus project, which touches upon this subject.
Salga talked to Arnolds more than I. I mean, I haven't talked to Arnolds, and I think she spoke about the Nord Plus project as well, right?
Okay. So there are several different connections here.
Yeah.
No, I just made a note of Nord Plus. We hadn't mentioned it, but I will look it up. Or if
kids. Salga, varbūt var nokomentēt par ko jūs runājāt ar Arnoldu.
Man liekas, mēs nerunājam, jo es aizmirsu. Teicu vai neteicu, ka mums ir, man šķiet, ka mums ir kopā ar Somiem un Zviedrijām rokas grāmatā bērniem ar autismu, uzmanības deficīta sindromu un Tureta sindromu. Mēs sāksim janvārī pētījumu un vāksim kopā visu, ko vien mēs varam savākt, visdažādākos visās valstīs, kas nu par to ir pētīts, par autistiem un dzīvnieku terapiju. Tad mums ir paredzēts izplatīt anketas vecākiem pedagogiem, lai savāktu viņu pieredzi, kādu nu katram ir. Es vakar arī pamanīju jūsu ielikto linku par to, ka ir izpētīts, ka suņu terapija nevienmēr autismam der. Es jau teicu, tas ir nozagts teksts no mūsu projekta pieteikuma, jo mēs tur to rakstījām.
Misūri universitātes pētnieki.
Jā, viņi ir izlasījuši mūsu pieteikumu un to bija paņēmuši, jo tiešām tas tā arī ir, ka varētu būt, ka ne visiem autistiem der suņi, un varbūt, ka viņiem vispār nevajag to dzīvnieku aiztikt, varbūt, ka viņiem pietiek viņi tikai vērot, un daļai autisti patīk ķirzakas, daļai patīk čūskas, un kā tas ir ar zirgiem, mēs to vēlamies izpētīt un, protams, kad dot tad kaut kādu apkopojumu un ieteikumus. Tas mums būs liels darbs, un tas mums bija tāds milzīgs pārsteigums, ka mums iedeva šo finansējumu, un tas būs ļoti, jā, tur mēs arī gaidām visus kā sadarbības partnerus un strādāsim kopā. Un tur tiešām arī būs aicināti palīgā daudzi, kas ar to ir saskārušies un kam ir savs viedoklis, savs redzējums. Mēs varam pētīt to visu kopā. Un es domāju, ka mēs arī šajā mūsu Erasmus projektā, protams, ka varam ietvert arī šo aspektu par bērniem ar autismu un zirgiem, izpētīt šo jautājumu, kā tas ir. Es domāju, ka Katrīnai nebūs iebildumi. Var kāds pateikt, Laura, ka vai mēs varēsim pievērsties nedaudz zirgiem un bērniem ar autismu?
Evija, varbūt patulkosi bez tulkos.
Well, they are planning also to do some sort of research regarding kids with autism and their interaction and relationship with horses, and if the horses can help them. And they express the hope that you won't mind doing that.
No, I won't mind. I don't know if that's extra beside the Nord Plus project, or is a new project you're doing, or
I understood that is something in January they will be surveying autism parents and the community at large and doing work.
Yeah, I'm involved in that project. But if there is any extra research being done, I'm more than happy to support that. We can talk more about that, Selga and Laura, if there is some mix-up or something, or continuation. But it is one of the prioritized groups. So we have different projects going on, and adults and young people and children on the autism spectrum or neurodivergent in general is a group we're going to work with through the whole next year as a special project in relationship to animal-assisted interventions. And then it's not only going to be horses, but animals in general. I wanted to address, because you asked, Arnold, about if we only work with animals that are rescued or have their own trauma, and we don't, but we can. So as you mentioned, there can be a win-win between shelters and this kind of work, but you can also work with, I usually say that the only prerequisite for the animal is that they actually want to work with humans. There are animals who are very little interested in humans, and I don't think we should force them to do this kind of work.
Tā, Līga man vaicā par mācību sākums, varbūt pateikšu visiem. Es nezinu, es ceru, ka viss būs kā nākas un nekādas aizķeršanās, un nekas tāds nebūs. Citi mani labojiet. 11. un 12. oktobrī mums būs praktiskā daļa pirmajam līmenim no 9 līdz 5. Tas būs pie mums mājās, mūsu mazajā lauku saimniecībā, kur viss ir kā pilnīgos pāķos, godīgi sakot, tad to rēķinieties. Mēs esam ļoti autentiska lauku sēta. Un tad 18. 19. Laura, jā? Otrdiena, trešdiena pēc tam ir 2. līmenis. Ja?
Jā, nākamā nedēļā tad sanāk, jā.
Jā, tas ir nākamajā nedēļā. Jo pa vidu ir tā, ka piekdienas vakarā mēs tiekamies, tie, kas tur laikam sanāk tā, ka jā, tās pārējās, tas ir tā kā ar līdzmaksājumu arī, jo visas tās, kas ir finansētās vietas, tās tur ir daļēji Ukraiņiem, un tur mēs tiekamies piekdienu vakarā no 6 līdz 8. Tas arī notiks mūsu lauku sētā. Un sestdien no 9 līdz 4, svētdien no 9 līdz 3. Bet tā būs traumu jutīgā apzinātības darbnīca, kas gan arī, protams, es domāju, ka ir vērtīga un var noteikti jums dot visiem kaut kādu ietversmu, kā strādāt ar zirgiem, varbūt klientiem, varbūt ar sevi. Jebkurā gadījumā tas ir interesanti. Un jā, tad ir brīvdiena atkal, jo Katrīna gribēja sev pa vidu starp praktiskajām mācībām un darbnīcu brīvdienas. Un tad trešdien, ceturtdien ir 2. līmenis, un tas notiks visticamāk. Tas notiks, ja kaut kas atkal neatgadīsies, Līgatnē pie Daces. Vismaz tā ir sarunāts. Un tur arī sākās 9. Cikos būsim apakaļ, nezinu, varbūt tur par cik ir jābrauc, mēs varbūt kaut ko piekuriģēsim nedaudz, bet ir doma, ka vienīgais jautājums, cik mēs brauksim, ka visi ar vienu transportu brauksim uz turieni.
Tad taisīs kaut kādu WhatsApp grupu vai ko, kur ar informāciju apmainīties un visas šīs te aktuālās lietas?
Jā, droši vien, ka mums kaut kas tāds ir jāizveido. Jā. Jā, laba ideja īstenībā.
Jā, jo tagad tu pieminēji, es atceros, ka es redzēju par 15. 16. tur bija, tad tie tagad nav, jā? Tad jaunajā plānā šie datumi...
Nē, ir. Tās ir trauma jutīgā darbnīca. Tā ir sestdienas svētdiena.
Te var piedalīties gan, tā teikt, priekš sevis un priekš sirds, gan kā apmācība.
Bet es būtu ļoti laimīgi redzēt šito informāciju, ko tu tikko norunāji, ka tas ir uzrakstīts, jo man ir vizuālā uztvere vispār. Es ar ausīm maz uztveru.
Labi. To es gan tev man
Jā,
liekas.
es arī gribētu precizēt, ja var.
Jā.
Es gribētu precizēt, jo man tagad bišķiņi ir sajūtas, jo es it kā pieteicos uz traumu darbnīcu, bet tas ir praktiskā jau pirmais līmenis, un es saprotu, ka finansiāls nevar pacelt pirmo līmeni un jau traumu darbnīcu. Es tad varu tikai vienu vai uz otru, ja tas ir plānots vienā nedēļā. Un ja man ir jāizvēlās, tad es noteikti ņemtu pirmo apmācību līmeni.
Līga, tev ir jāizlēma, kā tu vispār gribi, cik tev ir laiks un tā tālāk. Tu vari iet arī online. Un ik pa laikam atskriet pie mums, praktizēties pirmkārt pie sevis mājās. Un tad atskriet pie mums. Un tur tu vari mācīties pilnīgi savā tempā un bez kaut kādas šausmīgas steigas un panikas. Es domāju, ka tu iegūsi principā to pašu. Tev pašai ir jādomā, vai tu vari tagad veltīt tās, teiksim, pirmajam līmenim. Tu gribi pirmo līmeni, es nedzirdēju, man, diemžēl, internets pārtrūka. Līga arī pazuda. Jo tur mēs dodam tā kā izvēles iespējas. Tie cilvēki, kas saprot, ka viņi tādu tempu gluži nevarēs uzturēt, tie var iet par zemāku tā kā cenu, mācīties online un nenāk tad uz tām praktiskajām dienām, kur arī viss būs ļoti tā intensīvi un saspiest. Bet lēnā garā to praktisko daļu arī apgūt mājās, bet ar iespēju nākt pie mums uz stalli un ar Katrīnas laipnu uzraudzību iziet to praktisko daļu. Tā kā tur var izlēmt.
Pārējums ar mums tāds trīspakāpju.
Jā, otrs variants ir ka tad iet praktisko daļu, tad ļoti lielā steigā tagad nedaudz iepazīstās ar šo pirmā, otrā, atkarībā no tā, cik līmeņus tad grib iziet. Līga, kā tev ir? Kādas ir tavas vēlmes?
Man grib, tas, ko es vēlos, ir es gribētu vismaz 3 līmeņus.
Jā.
Un attiecīgi arī certifikāts, jo tas ir tas, kas izmantošu zirgus darbā. Man bija sava vīzija, ka...
Tā tu pazudi, man šķiet.
Jā, Līga, mēs tev nedzirdam.
Mums te laukos internets, mēs ar Līgu esam ļoti netālu.
Mēs no meža.
Es
dikti atvainojos. Es pazudu, man visu laiku raustās zona, tāpēc es, diemžēl, regulāri pusi nedzirdu no tā, kas tiek stāstīts. Tā mana vēlme ir dabūt šos vismaz 3 līmeņus, jo ir skaidrs, ka zirgus bija plānojis integrēt darbā. Es gan to biju iedomājusies vēl pavisam citādāk, un arī tas, ko es biju meklējis, bija citāds, bet nāk šis variants, kas ir ļoti labs variants, tad es gribētu vismaz 3 līmeņus. Un attiecīgi sanāk, ka to traumu darbnīcu, tad to es tā kā izlaižu, jo, tas viss ir priekš manis arī fiziski ir stipa daudz, jo man vēl ir augstskola intensīvi, un es vienkārši fiziski, ne fiziski, ne finansiāli nevēlu.
Līga, tev visu var pateikt uzreiz, ka, manuprāt, tev būtu piemērotāks tās mācības online, lēnā garā, zinot tev aizņemtību. Jo vai tu varēsi tagad 4 dienas, darba dienas atlicināt, lai iziet to 1. 2. līmeni praksē ar Katrīnu?
Zin kā, viss jau ir saistīts ar plānošanu. Ja es zinu, kas var ieplānot, un ja zinu, ka man pie tam, kad es tanī piekdien, sestdien, svētdien, tad man nav mācības, tad tas ir cits stāsts. Es vienkārši to visu
Jā, tad ir tā trauma darbnīca, kas gan arī ir derīga, bet tas ir nedaudz varbūt,
jo es biju sapratusi, ka tas ir saistīts savstarpēji.
Nē, tas nav obligāti. Tas nav obligāti. Jā, bet mēs varbūt vēlāk varam parunāt, es tev, pastāstīšu vēl varbūt to ideju vairāk. izrakstījuši.
Laikam būs arī webināriņš par traumu darbnīcu, vai ne?
Jā, tas būs nākamnedēļ.
Viņi varētu paspēt iespiest atsevišķi.
Tur stāstīs par to, ko tas nozīmē un kas tas ir, bet nu, tur mums tās vietas ir atdotas Ukraiņiem liela daļa, un tāpēc ir tas līdzfinansējums. Jā, jo Erasmus nedod 100%, diemžēl, finansējumu, viņš dod tikai līdzfinansējumu. Un līdz ar to mēs jau, kā es jau ievadu seminārā, webinārā teicu, ka mēs jau labprāt baigi visiem visu pavelti, bet nu, tas nav reāli. Tas ir kā ir. Jā, Līga aizgāja, tā kā palikusi vēl ir Beāta, Silve, visi ir praktiski prom. Esam pēdējie izturējuši. Labi, Evīte, pasaka lūdzu Katrīnai lielu paldies. Un Evija.
Evija mēģina atrast pogu uz datoru. Katrina, big thank you for the presentation and for your answers to the questions.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and the last bit they talked about Selga and Liga was basically about the program and how it's.
Well, I wrote this.
Yeah, I got from Evia on
oh, you got other channels.
I have a ghost.
Yes, I have all channels. I have mobile phone. I have direct messaging.
Yeah.
So
yeah. So yeah, thank you for joining and listening. I'm looking forward to see the ones who are going to be part of this project in a couple of weeks, days.
Thank you.
Thank you.